There was a sequin under the couch. Not just any sequin. A black, reflective one, shaped like a teardrop. Not ours. Not from any throw pillow. Not from any dress I remember Fiona owning. Not from any decoration we've ever had. I noticed it this morning while crawling on the floor to plug in my charger after she'd left for the party. It blinked at me like a secret. I didn't touch it. Just stared. I vacuumed the whole apartment last night. Every room. I always do before she has people over. She said they were pre-gaming at our place before the party bus picked them up. Just girls being chaotic, she joked. Then she kissed my cheek with one foot already out the door. They came at 8. They left by 9:15. Fiona didn't text after. At midnight, I looked under the couch again. The sequin was still there. At 1:30, I sat across from it on the carpet like it might explain itself. At 3:47, I checked her location again. Nothing. Disabled. First time in months. I didn't even know she could disable it. At 4:22, I wrote her a message. Everything okay? You good? No reply. By 5:03, I was wide awake, sitting by the front door, lights off, phone in hand, staring at that little glint of black on the floor like it had a voice, and I just didn't speak the language. She got home at 6:12 a.m. She opened the door slowly, like someone bracing for cold, and I didn't say a word. I just pointed at the floor. Was this yours? I asked, voice cracking like I hadn't spoken all night. Because I hadn't. She froze. Looked down. And that was the first time I saw guilt hit her before a single word left her mouth. She blinked twice. Once in confusion, once in guilt. I could tell the difference now. Fiona stepped inside slowly, like the apartment was unfamiliar, like I wasn't supposed to be there. She closed the door behind her with careful fingers, not slamming it like usual. The silence between us was loud, heavier than anything she could have said. Still holding the sequin in my hand, I turned it over once more, pretending I needed another look. I didn't. I already knew what it meant. What's that? She asked, setting her purse on the kitchen island without even making eye contact. You tell me, I said flatly. My voice sounded thinner than usual, drained, like it had been ringing in my chest for hours and only now made its way out. She glanced down, then away. Probably from someone's dress. We had glitter everywhere. That was the lie. Not even a pause. Not even an I don't know. She had that one loaded. Preloaded. Ready for deployment. I stood there, still in the same hoodie and sweatpants I wore last night, while she slipped off her heels and started walking toward the hallway like we were done talking. Like it was over. Like I'd just asked about a sock on the floor and not the sequin that had shattered the last bit of trust one had left. Who's T? I asked suddenly. She froze mid-step. Her back stiffened. T? She echoed. What are you talking about? There it was again. Life first, question second. A rhythm. A dance. I pulled the receipt from the side table and held it up. This was in your jacket. I wasn't snooping. It fell out when I moved it off the chair. That part was actually true. The universe wanted me to know. Or maybe it was just tired of watching me live in the dark. She turned around slowly, still barefoot, still saying nothing. Her eyes scanned the paper like she needed to translate it from a foreign language. As if she hadn't read it before. As if her own handwriting was a mystery. Oh, that was just from earlier in the week, she said eventually, her voice wobbling between casual and nervous. Tamara. That's her nickname. The bride. She signed stuff like that. I thought the bride's name was Ellie, I said. Boom. Now it was her mouth that froze open, the first time the lie had nowhere to land. For a moment, I wished she would say something. Anything. Even another stupid excuse. But she didn't. She just walked past me to the sink and filled a glass with water like we hadn't just torn open the skin of our marriage. I watched her gulp it like a woman who'd been running from something all night. I didn't need her to confess. I didn't need a name or a location or a reason. I already had the timeline. The sequence of events. The look in her eyes when I pointed at the floor. The moment her laugh left this house and never came back. I walked over, set the receipt and the sequin on the counter, and quietly asked, do you want to tell me now, or should I just keep guessing? She turned to me then, and for the first time in months, she looked scared. Not because she thought she'd lose me, but because she realized I might have already left, and I was still standing right there. She didn't answer right away, just stared. The kind of stare people give when the story they rehearsed in their head suddenly crumbles. Her mouth opened a few times like she wanted to start mid-sentence, but there was nowhere to begin that wouldn't sound like a confession. I didn't plan anything. she finally said, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. It just happened. It was stupid. I didn't even know what it was yet. But the way she said it, the way her shoulders fell and her hand trembled slightly when she put the glass down, that said enough. So there was someone, I said. Not a question. She nodded. And that's when something inside me went numb. Like an ice shelf just broke off in my chest and drifted away. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't punch a wall or demand details. I just stepped back, slowly, like her guilt was contagious and I didn't want to catch it. She took a step forward. Ev, please don't do this, she whispered, reaching for my arm. I stepped further away. You already did this, I said. She stood there frozen, arm half raised, like a paused animation. For a moment, we were both statues in a museum no one visits anymore. I didn't mean for it to happen, she continued. It was Michelle's idea to invite him. I didn't even know he was going to show. We had too many drinks, and I wasn't thinking straight. And he kissed you? I asked, still calm, but my stomach twisted at the word. Her silence answered. So, did you stop him? She flinched. That was all I needed. I walked to the bedroom, not to pack, not to slam the door, just to sit. To be somewhere her voice couldn't reach me. But she followed. Please, Everett. It wasn't anything serious, she said from the doorway. It didn't mean anything. It's not like I had feelings for him. I didn't even get his number. I don't even remember half of it. It was just a moment. Just a moment. She said it like it was a justification. Like the erosion of our marriage could be measured in seconds. As if time made betrayal less real. A moment. I repeated, laughing under my breath. You threw away 7 years over a moment? I didn't throw anything away, she shot back, a flash of anger breaking through. You're the one acting like everything's over. I looked at her then, really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see my wife. I saw a stranger wearing her skin. I saw someone who hadn't been holding this marriage in her hands for months. And now that it was slipping, only now did she panic. It's not the kiss, I said slowly. It's everything that came before it. The way you started hiding things. How your laugh stopped sounding like ours. The way you looked in the mirror tonight. Not to see how you looked for me, but how you'd look for whoever might be watching. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I turned away, and in that quiet, all I could think about was the black sequin still sitting on the counter. Like a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence I never got to write. I didn't sleep that morning. I sat on the edge of the bed, fully clothed, staring at the carpet for hours. She cried once, not loudly, not dramatically. Just this quiet, muffled sobbing I could hear through the bathroom door while the shower ran. It didn't move me. It used to, but not anymore. Not after everything. Around 7:30 a.m., Fiona came out wrapped in a towel and avoided my eyes like I was some ghost haunting the apartment. I didn't speak. Neither did she. She grabbed a change of clothes and went into the hallway to dress. At 8:12, she left for her brunch with the girls. That was the excuse. The same group that, apparently, knew everything but me. The same people who drank beside her while she slipped into someone else's attention. She didn't ask if I wanted coffee. She didn't ask if I'd be okay. She just said she'd be back later, and shut the door like we were just roommates. And that's when it happened. The phone buzzed. Not mine. Hers. She left it. Her personal phone. She usually double-checked for it before leaving, even more than her keys. I stared at it for a full minute, like it might explode if I touched it. But the lock screen lit up again, a notification preview from a group chat. Tell Fiona not to post the one where her hand's on his leg, face with tears of joy skull. I didn't unlock anything. Didn't snoop. I just stared at the words glowing back at me like they'd been lit by fire. Another message followed. That bartender was HOTTT. Fiona was bold AF, smirking face fire. It felt like someone dumped a bucket of ice water on my chest. I picked up the phone and almost threw it across the room. But I didn't. Instead, I tapped the camera icon from the lock screen. You didn't need to unlock it to view the last few photos. The gallery opened. First came a blurry selfie of her and Michelle, both holding giant pink cocktails. Then a short video of them screaming lyrics to some 2000s pop song inside what looked like a limo or party bus. Then, there was a shot of her, Fiona, standing between two guys I didn't recognize. One had his arm around her lower back. The other had her hand on his chest. I kept scrolling, and there it was. The photo they were talking about. Fiona, sitting on a velvet couch at some dimly lit lounge, holding a glass of champagne. A guy, bearded, sleeveless denim jacket, smug, sat beside her. Her hand rested lightly on his thigh. He leaned in close. Too close. Her smile in that picture? It was the one she used to give me when we were still something. That broke me. Not the thigh. Not the guy. Not even the group messages. It was that smile, resurrected for someone who hadn't earned it. A smile she buried months ago when I started asking if we were okay, and she told me I was overthinking. I put the phone down like it burned. And for the first time in our marriage, I realized I had no idea who she really was anymore. She wasn't hiding a moment. She was hiding a whole version of herself. And now I had proof. Not for her, not for some courtroom, not even for friends. For me. So I'd never again doubt what I felt that night while waiting for her in the dark. She wasn't mine anymore. And maybe she hadn't been for a long time. The moment I put her phone back on the counter, it felt like something inside me unclenched. Not relief. Not even pain. Just release. Like I'd been holding a breath I didn't know I took the day she started fading away from me, and now I could finally let it out, even if it came with no air. The apartment was still, humming with the low buzz of a refrigerator and the ticking of that ugly wall clock she insisted we buy from the flea market. The one I hated. The one I kept because she smiled when she said it reminded her of her grandma's house. Now, every tick felt like a countdown I hadn't realized was already in progress. I didn't pack. I didn't call a friend. I didn't even cry. I just sat. For hours. At some point I must have fallen asleep on the couch, because the knock at the door startled me back to life. I jolted up, heart pounding, daylight flooding through the blinds like an interrogation lamp. Another knock. Soft. Hesitant. Familiar. I didn't move. She knocked again. Ev, it's me. Her voice, muffled through the door, made my stomach twist. I could hear the shakiness in it. But I stayed still. I wanted to see if she'd leave or keep trying. Can you open the door? She asked again. Nope. I just sat on the floor beside it, back against the wall, silent. The doorknob jiggled. Her keys were gone, still on the hook. Maybe she forgot them, or maybe it was some part of her expecting this not to be locked. She didn't know I had locked it myself. After I saw the photo, after I read the group messages, after I realized I was living with a stranger who was still using my last name. Please. I messed up. 3 more knocks. I didn't mean for this to get that far. It was just a stupid kiss. Just flirting. I didn't sleep with anyone, I swear. I swallowed hard. Because now it was clear, she didn't know what I saw. The texts. The photos. The gallery. And hearing her lie, again, in real time, that hit harder than all the screenshots in the world. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she might lose her comfort. Lose me. Lose the version of me who stayed silent and smiled and vacuumed the apartment before her girls' nights. The man who made her coffee without asking and paid the bills without complaint. The man who loved her long after she stopped choosing me. I know it looks bad, she said from the other side of the door. But I swear to God, Everett, it was never about that guy. It wasn't about anyone. I felt invisible. You stopped trying. You were always working in the garage, and I stood up. Not because I wanted to respond, but because hearing her justify it like I drove her into someone else's arms felt like being gutted with a dull knife. I opened the door. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, no makeup, hoodie on backward, not that she noticed. Her eyes went wide, surprised I actually opened it. Like she wasn't sure I'd still be here. Like some part of her assumed I would have just run away. We stood there, inches apart. Same air, different worlds. You lied to me, I said calmly. She opened her mouth. I held up my hand. No, let me finish. She closed it. I stepped aside and walked back toward the kitchen counter, picked up her phone, opened the gallery again, and turned the screen toward her. The photo, the hand, the leg, the same moment they laughed about in the group chat. She didn't say anything. I watched the color drain from her face, the slow-motion collapse of her composure. How many other moments were there? I asked. Or was this just the one that got photographed? Still no answer. I didn't cheat, she mumbled, as if that would fix anything. I shook my head. You betrayed. That's worse. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. I could tell she was scanning my face, looking for softness, some hint of the man who used to hold her at midnight when she had anxiety. But he wasn't here today. I handed her the phone and walked to the closet. This time, I started packing. I didn't slam the drawers. I didn't storm around or make a performance out of it. I moved quietly, deliberately. I folded 2 shirts, my laptop charger, the toiletries I actually use. I left the framed wedding photo face down on the nightstand. Not broken, not trashed. Just turned away, like I couldn't look at it without tasting metal in my mouth. Fiona sat at the edge of the bed like she'd been turned to stone. She didn't cry. Not this time. Not when it would have made a difference. Her phone sat dark in her lap, like it didn't want to risk another message popping up. She kept looking at the zipper of my duffel bag, like the faster it closed, the more real this became. "You don't have to go," she finally said, her voice flat. "You don't get to tell me what I have to do anymore." I replied without turning. She flinched like I'd hit her. I hadn't raised my voice once. That's what made it worse, I think. The calm. "What are you going to tell people?" she asked. I zipped the bag slowly. "The truth. That my wife went out for a girls' night and came back with someone else's scent on her soul." "That's not fair." "No," I interrupted. "Fair was me giving you everything I had and asking for honesty in return. Fair was vacuuming your party mess and staying up all night waiting for a woman who didn't think about me once the minute she left the driveway. Fair left when you stopped looking at me like I mattered." I slung the bag over my shoulder and looked around the room once more. It was strange. This space we had built together. It looked the same, but it didn't feel like ours anymore. It felt borrowed, like a place where someone used to love me. Fiona stood up. "Are you going to a hotel?" "Don't worry," I said. "I won't embarrass you. I'm going to Carson's for a few days." Her shoulders sank. Carson was our mutual friend, or at least used to be. I'd helped him build his backyard shed last summer, and Fiona had always said he was too nosy. Maybe that's why I chose him. Because I wanted her to know someone would hear the full story. I reached for the front door. My hand paused on the knob. "If it was just a kiss, like you say," I said without looking back, "then why did your friends laugh about it in text while I was sitting in the dark waiting for you?" I heard her inhale sharply. No words came out. "Exactly," I muttered and walked out. The air outside hit me like a wave. Fresh, sharp, October crisp. It should have felt freeing. But all I felt was empty. I sat in the car for 5 full minutes before turning the key. My phone buzzed, not hers. "Carson. Carson, you good? I just saw your wife posted some taking space thing on IG. That true?" I almost laughed. That's how fast it starts. That's how fast they spin it. Before I even left the driveway, she was already rewriting the story. Taking space. As if this was mutual. As if I didn't just walk away from the only home I ever built with my own hands. I drove. No music. No GPS. Just silence and pavement. I didn't cry until the first red light. I didn't sob. Just let a few tears run freely, the way I should have done months ago. Because the betrayal wasn't just in what she did that night. It was in everything she stopped doing long before that. By the time I pulled into Carson's driveway, the sun was already halfway up the sky. I hadn't called ahead. I didn't need to. He opened the door before I even rang the bell, standing there in pajama pants and a hoodie, holding a half-eaten granola bar like he'd been expecting me anyway. "You okay?" he asked. "Nope," I replied. "You got coffee?" "Always." We didn't talk right away. Carson was good at that, the silence. He handed me a mug, sat across from me in the kitchen, and let the weight of what I wasn't saying settle between us. "She cheated?" he finally asked. I nodded. He let out a long breath. "That the Bachelorette thing?" Another nod. "You saw it." Her friends posted pics. Messages. She forgot her phone. Left a whole trail like she wanted to be caught. He leaned back in his chair and swore under his breath. "Fiona." I didn't respond. Just sipped the coffee and stared at the steam like it might show me what I'd missed all these months. "You gonna go back?" he asked carefully. That one I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have thoughts, but because the question itself felt foreign. Like it came from a world I didn't belong to anymore. Before I could reply, his phone buzzed on the table. Then again. Then again. Notifications stacking up like dominoes. "Jesus," he muttered, flipping it over. "She posted." I blinked. "What?" "Yeah. Instagram story. Some dramatic crap, dim lighting, sad music, that soft breakup girl aesthetic. Caption says, "Sometimes space is love. Sometimes silence is healing." I laughed. It just came out. Sharp and bitter and involuntary. "She's already curating the narrative," I said. Carson didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I knew that look. The one that says, "She's gonna play the victim, and you'll be the bad guy for not forgiving her fast enough." A minute later, my phone started buzzing. Not hers. Mine. Messages. Pings. Group chats lighting up like a house fire. First from Fiona's sister. Chloe, is everything okay? Fiona's being cryptic again. Said you needed distance? Then from one of her friends, someone I barely knew, but who followed me anyway. Danny, just want to say you're not alone. Some of us saw how she's been lately. You didn't deserve that. That one stunned me. Some of us. So people knew. People noticed. People watched my marriage unravel and said nothing because they didn't want to get involved, or worse, because they didn't think I'd believe them. By noon, I had 23 unread messages, 5 missed calls, and 3 notifications that Fiona had deleted 2 Instagram posts and changed her profile picture to a black and white selfie. Damage control. She wasn't sorry. She was spinning it, rebranding her betrayal as growth. By mid-afternoon, Carson's wife came home from yoga and gave me that look. The pitying one. She offered a hug. I took it. I didn't even like hugs that much, but I needed to remember what human warmth felt like. That night, I scrolled back through the last 6 months of my text messages with Fiona. I read things differently now. The missed good night texts. The dry, I'll be home late messages. The way she stopped saying, I love you, without being prompted. The way she started treating our house like a place she visited, not lived in. The affair didn't start that night. It started when she stopped choosing me, day by day, in all the small, invisible ways I didn't know to grieve at the time. And now, as I lay on a lumpy guest bed staring at the ceiling, all I could think about was one thing. What would she do when I didn't come back? Because this wasn't a break. This wasn't space. This was the beginning of my silence. And for once, she would have to sit in it alone. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't gone back. Not to the apartment. Not to the memories. Not to her. She called every day the first week. Texted at night, like that's when the guilt crept in. Her messages started with explanations. Then came the apologies. Then came the desperation. Can we just talk? You didn't even let me explain everything. I know I messed up, but this isn't you, Ev. Please come home. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. Because I finally understood. Every time I tried to fix us, I was patching holes in a boat she was already halfway out of. The second week, she switched tactics. Instagram stories with sad songs. Mutual friends reaching out with cautious curiosity. Fiona suddenly becoming the girl who needed space to grow. As if the damage she did was a necessary step toward her enlightenment. But no one believed her as much as she wanted them to. And then silence. Beautiful, uncluttered silence. That's when I started sleeping again. Real sleep, the kind that doesn't feel like drowning. I began walking in the mornings. Cold air, no headphones. Just footsteps and breath and sunrise. I didn't even realize how much noise had been living in my head until I finally heard what it was like without her voice in it. Carson offered his spare room permanently. I declined. I needed somewhere with roots I planted myself. So I found a short-term cabin rental a few miles out, tucked in the woods, overlooking a small frozen pond. A place where I could chop wood in the afternoon and drink hot tea without anyone asking why I wasn't smiling. It was there, in that silence, that I started building again. Not just furniture. Me. One night, I opened my laptop and started sketching out a new line of pieces for my shop. Clean edges. Darker tones. Moodier, more personal. I posted a preview on my business page. It got shared. A lot. People commented that they'd never seen this side of my work before. They were right. Because before, I was building for a life I thought I was supposed to want. Now, I was building from the life I barely survived. Then came the email. From a boutique in Asheville. They'd seen the photos. They wanted to carry 5 of my pieces in their fall design line. They said my work looked haunted and honest. I stared at those 2 words for a long time. Haunted. Honest. Perfect. The 3rd week, I got a letter in the mail. Real paper. Fiona's handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a 2-page letter. No defenses. No excuses. Just a slow unraveling of everything she never told me out loud. At the end, she wrote, I thought I needed to feel wanted. But I didn't realize how much you gave until I watched you disappear. If you never forgive me, I understand. But part of me hopes that one day, you'll remember who we were before I lost myself. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer I don't open anymore, and went back to sanding a table I was building by hand. I didn't forgive her that day. I didn't need to. Because forgiveness, I learned, isn't always about saying it's okay. Sometimes it's just about saying, I'm okay. And I am. Last weekend, I sold my first new piece at double the price I used to charge. Yesterday, a woman at the farmer's market complimented the carved pendant I wore, the one I made out of scrap with the night I left. She smiled and said, "There's something strong about this, like it's been through fire." I smiled back. It has.